Oh, great Scots! At least it's not 2020. Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Izak Entwistle, and on today's episode of Topical Flicks, we'll be discussing a proper cult classic, Back to the Future. On today's episode, we'll be discussing actors, directors, and other behind-the-scenes parts about this fantastic film. But first, time for a quick recap. Marty McFly is your stereotypical teenager of the 80s, man. He lives in Hill Valley, California with his family of 5. He has a mother with drinking and smoking problems and a dad with, let's just say, no backbone, where he gets continuously bullied by his childhood bully, Biff Tannen. Marty is friends with eccentric scientist Dr. Emmett Brown, or Doc for short. And during one of his latest experiments, Marty is accidentally sent back in time to 1955 in a plutonium-powered time machine, the DeLorean. How does this DeLorean work? Well, turns out in his wild youth, the Doc managed to steal some plutonium off of some terrorists. Man, what a guy. Just pause it. During his hysteric blast to the past adventure, Marty must make sure that his parents-to-be fall in love after, well, let's just say, swapping places with his father in their parents' love story. And acting as a wingman for his dad proves more difficult than originally intended because his dad has no backbone whatsoever. However, Marty, using what the CIA likes to call advanced interrogation techniques, uses this to politely persuade George into inviting Lorraine out to the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. All the while, Marty must try and find the dog to try and plan a way back to the future. The film was directed by... Sorry, don't pause it, I was just gonna... The film was directed by famed director Robert Zemeckis, who you may know for directing classics as Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and being produced by Universal Pictures. Back to the Future was a massive financial and critical success, grossing over $388.8 million at the box office. First releasing on the 3rd of July 1985, before then releasing in the UK on the 4th of December. Due to the overwhelming success of the film, Back to the Future was immediately greenlit for a couple of sequels. The first of which being released in 1989 with Back to the Future Part 2, before the third one to complete the trilogy was released the year afterwards. The film stars Michael J. Fox as titular teen time traveller Marty McFly, Christopher Lloyd as the eccentric Doc Brown, Kristen Glover and Lee Thompson as both versions of Marty's parents, and then finally Thomas F. Wilson as the titular antagonist of the series, Biff Tannen. During the original filming of Back to the Future, Michael J. Fox was not actually the original choice for Marty McFly, but instead an actor called Eric Stoltz. You might recognise him from playing Lars in Pulp Fiction. What was it? Robert Zemeckis filmed about 5 weeks worth into production before deciding that Eric Stoltz was given too serious of a portrayal for the original light-hearted tone of the film. So he asked Universal Pictures to fire Eric Stoltz and recast Marty McFly. Sorry, I didn't. Fuck. Is it still playing? In the scene where Doc, hang on. Don't pause it, I was just gonna do it again. In the scene where Doc remotely controls the DeLorean for its first test drive, while his dog Einstein is still in the car, they achieve this effect by, well, quite literally having a stunt driver dress up in a massive dog costume. And fun fact, you can actually still see the stunt driver in the massive dog costume in some of the shots of the DeLorean driving around in Twin Pine Malls. Fun fact, the director of Universal Pictures at the time, Sid Sheinberg, actually did not like the name Back to the Future. He heavily insisted that any movie with the word future in it would not sell tickets, which, to be honest, I find bizarre, but that's him, I guess. Pause it. Because of this, Sid Sheinberg actually suggested his own title, and his title for the film was Spaceman from Pluto. Quite frankly, no one, including the director, Robert Zemeckis, preferred this. But since Sid Sheinberg was the head of Universal Pictures, this change was very, very close to actually happening. It was only thanks to executive producer Steven Spielberg that Sid Sheinberg gave up on his name proposal and stuck with the original name. And, quite frankly, for the rest of us, the rest was history. Well, that does it for today's episode of Top of the Flicks. I just want to say a quick thank you to my guests over here for a very fantastic interview. Hopefully, I'll see you next time for our next episode of Top of the Flicks.